Welcome everyone to today's Explainer. We're putting on our consultant hats because, well, we're going to master the ultimate sprint planning session. If you've been banging your head against the wall trying to get your team aligned, or if your weekly planning just feels like a chaotic scramble every single time, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down exactly how to run a highly effective, incredibly focused, and adaptable sprint planning session. And the best part? This works for absolutely any business team, not just software developers. Okay, let's jump right in.
I want you to be brutally honest with yourself for a second. Is your sprint planning basically a hostage situation? I mean, we've all been there, right? You get dragged into this endless, soul-sucking estimation meeting where everyone just feels trapped. Nobody's allowed to leave until every single tiny task is sized and assigned. It's totally draining. And you know what the worst part is? Despite agonizing over all these minute details for hours, the sprint still ends up going off the rails by Wednesday, leading to total team burnout and, frankly, subpar work. Well, we're going to fix that today.
Here's our game plan to break that cycle. 1. Agile planning for every kind of team. 2. Nailing down capacity and sprint goals. 3. The 45-minute planning agenda. Yes, just 45 minutes. 4. Visualizing the work with Agile boards. And finally, 5. Troubleshooting that dreaded mid-sprint scope creep. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1. Agile planning for every team. And I really mean every team. So there's this massive mindset shift happening in the industry right now. Agile is definitely not just for software engineers anymore. Take customer support, for example. I know a support team that was absolutely drowning. They were getting hit with hundreds of tickets a day, burnout was through the roof, and they were completely blowing their service level agreements. So what changed? They simply visualized their workflow. They set up a physical board for internal requests and an electronic one for customer tickets. By putting a hard cap on the number of items they took on per week, literally forcing themselves to say no to the overflow, they slashed their backlog. They started actually spotting trends in the issues, and boom, they hit their SLAs. It's like they finally took the steering wheel, instead of just letting the work run them over. And you know what's really fascinating? Non-technical folks, like sales teams, often pick up Agile way faster than the tech guys do. Seriously. Why? Mostly because they aren't bogged down by those overly complex, clunky ticketing systems that just hide the actual work. Sales teams naturally gravitate toward highly visible physical tools. Imagine a backlog built entirely out of Post-it notes slapped right on a glass office window, or just on a flip chart. That creates unavoidable transparency. All the really important conversations happen right there, standing shoulder to shoulder next to the board.
Moving on to Section 2, let's talk about defining capacity and sprint goals, because this is where we set the foundation.
Look, you absolutely cannot build a solid sprint on a shaky foundation. If your backlog is basically just a messy dumping ground for every random idea anyone has ever pitched, your planning meeting is doomed from the start. Here's a seasoned product manager trick. Categorize your work into a highly disciplined 4-stage sub-backlog. It flows exactly like this. First, you have the general backlog. From there, items move into ready for refinement. Once they've been discussed and fleshed out, they graduate to refined. And finally, they land in the golden column, to be picked. Let me tell you, when you walk into sprint planning with a clean, pre-prioritized to-be-picked list, the whole meeting just becomes an absolute breeze. Now, the big question, how do we actually measure what we can get done? I absolutely love this rule. First of all, as velocity is unique to every team, never use another team's velocity to plan your sprint. Please etch this into your brain. This is the golden rule of estimation. Velocity is just a measure of your specific team's rhythm. Trying to compare your operations team's point velocity to the marketing team's velocity, it's literally like comparing apples to bicycles. It makes zero sense, and honestly, it just creates a ton of unfair, toxic pressure. Instead, you need to look in the mirror. Look at your own history. Tracking your team's velocity over the past few sprints completely shifts the vibe. You stop obsessing over mere utilization, that annoying question of, is everyone busy right now? And you start focusing on actual throughput and quality. The real question becomes, are we actually delivering value? That is the magic of tracking velocity.
But wait, you might say, what if we're a brand new team and we don't even have historical data yet? Easy. You calculate raw human capacity. You just look at 3 very straightforward metrics for every single team member. 1, what are their ideal daily working hours? 2, how many days are they actually going to be in the office this upcoming sprint? And 3, what exact percentage of their time is dedicated to this specific team? Doing this simple math prevents you from wildly overcommitting right out of the gate, and it totally protects your new team from burning out in week 1.
Okay, Section 3. This is the fun part. the 45-minute planning agenda. Now that the prep work is done, it's time to run the actual meeting. Sure, the timeline you're looking at maps out a 75-minute breakdown for those bigger, chunkier bodies of work, but I'm going to give you the consultant's secret for a super lean, 45-minute powerhouse session. You just scale those ratios down. Give it 3 minutes to review the past sprint, 6 minutes to hammer out the new goals, 12 minutes for estimating, and 24 minutes for debating and assigning ownership. The secret sauce here is strict time boxing. Sprint planning shouldn't be a monologue where one person dictates the whole week. It needs to be a lively, interactive debate where the whole team buys in and commits.
So how do you actually cram all of that into a tight 45-minute window without everyone panicking? Well, you do the heavy lifting beforehand. You've got to refine and estimate those tasks using SMART goals and the INVEST framework, making sure every task is independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. And you do this 1 to 2 days before the planning meeting even starts. Think about it. If your product owner shows up with perfectly refined, bite-sized, testable tasks, all the team has to do is vote on what to tackle next. You estimate during refinement, and you vote during planning. That, my friends, is how you save a massive amount of time.
Which brings us to Section 4, Visualizing Work with Agile Boards. Let's talk execution.
Because let's face it, planning is only half the battle. The single most crucial concept you need to grasp when executing that plan midweek is WIP limits. That stands for Work in Progress Limits. Think of this as your team's ultimate bulletproof shield against context switching. By putting a hard, intentional cap on the maximum number of active tasks the team can touch at the same time, you literally force people to finish what they've started before picking up a shiny new toy. The motto here is stop starting and start finishing. And you can see this beautifully laid out on a standard Kanban board. It's like a journey. A user's story starts off in the sprint backlog. When someone is ready, they pull it into in progress. But here's the kicker. Once the typing stops, it doesn't just teleport to the end. It moves into a testing or review phase to ensure it's actually up to standard. Only after it passes that rigorous check does it finally land in the complete column. It really acts as the visual heartbeat of your team's progress. Now, listen closely because this is a rule you absolutely must enforce. Every single team member must own their card. No shared ownership allowed, period. If 2 people own a task, nobody owns the task. Every card on that board represents a problem to solve, and one specific named person needs to be fully prepared to speak to its progress at tomorrow's daily stand-up. It's all about creating crystal clear accountability.
All right, final section. Section 5, Troubleshooting Mid-Sprint Scoop Creep. The inevitable curveballs. Look, no matter how flawless your planning session was, someone, maybe the director of support, is going to drop a totally unplanned, urgent request on your desk at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. It's going to happen. When it does, you need a rapid triage process. First things first, designate a specific triage role on your team. Maybe rotate it weekly so the whole group isn't getting distracted by every random message. That designated person evaluates the request using the Eisenhower matrix. They figure out, is this actually urgent and important, or is it just background noise? Next, assess how it impacts your current sprint goals. If it absolutely must be done right now, you immediately collaborate with a product owner to reprioritize and swap something else out. One in, one out. But the real secret to surviving that midweek chaos mathematically? Capacity allocation. You should literally never plan a sprint to 100% capacity. It's a recipe for disaster. Instead, aim to allocate roughly 80% of your team's time to the planned work and intentionally bake in a 20% buffer. That buffer is your shock absorber. It gives your team the breathing room to absorb those unexpected emergencies without completely derailing the stuff you promised to deliver. As we wrap things up today, I really want to hammer home a core philosophy. You need to make it easy for your team to fail, and more importantly, to learn from it. Agile is entirely built on empiricism. You try something out over a set couple of weeks, you sit down and reflect on what actually happened during your retrospective, and then you tweak it for the next round. If your team is absolutely terrified of failing, they are never going to take the swings needed to build those highly valuable, complex features. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on before your next planning session. Think about this. If your entire team's capacity somehow disappeared tomorrow, what is the one single sprint goal you would save? What's the one thing that truly matters? Asking that question forces you to be absolutely ruthless about prioritizing and focusing on what delivers true value. Take that exact mindset into your next 45-minute planning session, and I promise you, you will watch your team's execution completely transform. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.